I'm going to tell you something the Chihuahua community doesn't want on the internet. And the reason I know they don't want it is because every time someone says it in a forum, a small war breaks out. Most people buying a Chihuahua aren't really choosing between an applehead and a deerhead. They're choosing between the one their breeder happened to have available and the one a different breeder happened to have available. Then they tell themselves it was a deliberate decision with reasons behind it. I've watched this happen. The post-purchase rationalization on Chihuahua forums is some of the most impressive backfilling I've seen in any breed community. And Chihuahua people are genuinely intense. If you've never wandered into a Chihuahua Facebook group during a disagreement about head shape, you've lived a calmer life than me, and I'm slightly jealous. The actual question, applehead versus deerhead. Which one should you get? Does have a real answer. It's just not the answer most comparison videos give you, because most comparison videos are written by people who've never had a 6-pound dog vibrate with rage on their lap for 40 minutes because a bird landed in the wrong part of the yard. Start with what the difference actually is, because people constantly conflate visual characteristics with personality traits, and they're not the same thing. The applehead Chihuahua has a domed, rounded skull, noticeably rounder than a human eye would expect from a dog. The nose is set high, the eyes are large and tend to protrude, and the jaw is often undershot, meaning the lower jaw extends slightly past the upper. This is the shape recognized by the American Kennel Club's breed standard. If you're in a show ring, this is the correct head. The AKC standard describes the skull explicitly as well-rounded, apple-domed, and disqualifies dogs that deviate significantly from it. The deer head has a longer, narrower muzzle, a flatter skull, and a facial profile that looks closer to a miniature version of a regular dog. It's not a separate breed. This distinction confuses people constantly. It's just a head shape that falls outside the AKC standard. Deer heads also tend to be larger, typically running 10 to 14 pounds instead of the applehead's 3 to 6. Same breed, different expression of the genetics. The health conversation is where this comparison actually matters, and it's the part most breeders gloss over on their websites because it's not great for sales. The applehead's rounded skull comes with a documented neurological risk. The extreme dome shape is associated with higher rates of hydrocephalus, fluid accumulation in the brain, in Chihuahuas. A 2014 study from the University of Surrey's veterinary school found that brachycephalic dog breeds and dogs with pronounced skull doming showed significantly elevated rates of syringomyelia, a condition where fluid-filled cavities form in the spinal cord. The study covered Cavalier King Charles Spaniels primarily, but the skull-shaped mechanism applies to Chihuahuas with similar doming. Independent veterinary assessments of applehead lines put syringomyelia risk meaningfully higher than in deerhead populations. Appleheads also have a higher rate of an open fontanelle, a soft spot in the skull, similar to a human infant's, that sometimes never fully closes in extremely domed individuals. The AKC doesn't penalize for it in the show ring. Vets will penalize you for it at the emergency clinic at 2 a.m. when your dog takes a fall. The deerhead's longer muzzle means significantly reduced risk of most of those structural problems. The dental crowding that plague appleheads, because a shorter jaw is packing the same number of teeth into less space, is less severe. Respiratory issues are lower. The dog is structurally closer to what a dog is naturally supposed to look like, which sounds like a small thing until you're looking at a $4,000 surgery bill. I want to say something petty here, and I'm going to stand behind it. I think the applehead's AKC recognition says more about what show breeders found aesthetically interesting in the 1940s than it says about what a healthy dog looks like. The breed standard was written around the extreme type dogs that were winning in the ring, and the extreme dome got selected for specifically because judges rewarded it. That's not science. That's preference that got institutionalized. I don't say that to be contrarian. I say it because anyone buying a dog for health reasons rather than show purposes should know that AKC recognition of a specific head type isn't a health endorsement. It's an aesthetic standard. Those are different things, and the dog food industry and show community work very hard to blur that distinction. Temperament is where most comparison content goes completely wrong on this topic. And it's because people write about it as if head shape determines personality. It doesn't. Both types share the same essential Chihuahua personality, which I'll describe as accurately as I can. Loyal to approximately 1.5 people, deeply suspicious of everyone else, physically tiny, but emotionally the size of a building, and completely unbothered by the fact that it weighs 6 pounds and the thing it wants to fight weighs 90. A Chihuahua in full territorial mode is one of the more impressive things I've witnessed from an animal. Not because it's dangerous, but because the confidence to body weight ratio is extraordinary. The temperament variables that actually matter are socialization history and the specific dog's genetics, not whether its skull is round or flat. A well-socialized applehead from a breeder who actually handles the puppies from birth is going to be easier to live with than a deerhead who spent its first 12 weeks in a kennel run with minimal human contact. Socialization window closes at around 12 weeks for dogs, per research going back to Scott and Fuller's foundational 1965 work on critical periods in dog development. What happens in those 12 weeks matters more than the shape of the skull above them. The practical ownership reality for both types is more similar than the comparison videos suggest, with one meaningful difference. Both types bark a lot. Chihuahuas are consistently ranked among the highest vocalization breeds in owner surveys, and this isn't a malfunction. It's the breed doing what it was shaped to do over centuries of being a watchdog. Alert, persistent, loud for their size. Both types have notable cold sensitivity. A 6-pound dog with almost no body fat in a Chicago February is not having a good time without a coat. And I say that as someone who finds dog coats slightly embarrassing. The deerhead, being slightly larger with marginally more body mass, handles cold marginally better. It's a small difference, not a reason to choose one over the other by itself. The one place the types meaningfully diverge in practical terms, the applehead's health maintenance costs more. Dental cleanings under anesthesia, required more frequently because of the crowding, run $200 to $600 per session at most clinics and should happen yearly for a dog with severe crowding. Potential eye injury risk is higher because of the protruding eyes. If syringomyelia develops, which it does in a meaningful percentage of extreme dome individuals, management costs can reach several $1,000s annually. If you're getting a Chihuahua for show purposes, or because you specifically love the AKC standard look, the applehead is the dog you want, and the health risks are a known variable you're choosing to accept. If you want a companion dog that fits Chihuahua energy and personality in a slightly sturdier, lower maintenance body, the deerhead is the more honest choice. Both of them are going to sit on your lap and stare at you like you are the single most important thing that has ever existed. And then turn around and absolutely lose their minds at a plastic bag that blew past the window. That part doesn't change based on head shape. Neither type was built for moderation.